Hi there, smart driver. Social driving, the leading cause of car crashes, not just in the United States, but also in Europe and other high-income countries in the world. Building on the live stream that we had last week talking about why traffic crashes are so high in the US, today we're talking about social driving and continuing on from that discussion and what we can do to keep ourselves safe on the building on that discussion to keep ourselves safe on the roadway and reduce our chances of being involved in a crash. A few people here already. 85 is here. Hello, my friend. Everything is good. And how are you, my friend? Marion is tuning in from snowy Vancouver, and my friend Elevator Fan is tuning in from Monticello, Indiana. If you're just tuning in, let us know where you're tuning in from. Let us know what class of license you're going for and how we can help you out. And last week's live stream, it's edited. It's up on the YouTube channel here, and I'll put a card up in the corner for you there. Have a look for that, and you can have a look at that as to kind of a general overview of why traffic crashes in the United States are so much higher than they are in other high-income countries in the world. And I had some comments, a lot of comments actually on that video for the number of people that actually had a look at it. Doesn't matter what statistic you look at, whether it's the total population of people in the United States or you look at 100 million miles driven, I think it's the statistics that they use. The United States consistently is higher than every other high-income country in the world for the number of traffic crashes, and we're trying to discover what that is. I definitely do not have all the answers about why that is for the United States of America, and most traffic safety professionals, most academics, people that work at research institutes, they don't have the answers either as to why it is. It's a whole combination of factors. Think of it like a relationship. There's a whole combination of factors that make a relationship work and statistical information, but how those different conditions, factors, and criteria fit together and cause something to happen is the elusive answer that academics and traffic safety professionals are seeking. And it's, the same thing with, something comparable that's happening right now in traffic is what's happening in terms of trucking and why the trucking industry is so bad and why there are so many traffic crashes. Is it bad simply because it's getting so much public notice owing to the fact that there are cameras everywhere now and we have dash cams and whatnot that can see this and we can see that it's a problem? Was it always a problem, or is it just now because it's getting attention? It's the same thing with the crash rate in the United States. Is it a problem? Has it always been a problem? Have vulnerable road users, pedestrians, cyclists, kids on e-scooters, motorcycle riders, have they always been at risk to the rate that they've been at risk now because they're simply vulnerable road users? They were always threatened by cars and other motorized vehicles on the roadway. But is it because there's more attention to the problem now that we're recognizing it? So that's one question to ponder in terms of traffic safety and why the traffic safety record in the United States of America is worse, or it's more pronounced than it is in other countries of the world. And as was rightly pointed out by one person who lived both in Europe and lived in the United States of America, they have crappy drivers in both countries, or on both continents, because Europe's a continent. The United States is not. North America, we'll include Canada too, just to make everybody feel included. So, and then you can talk about all kinds of other factors. I mean, here on the West Coast, we have a large Chinese immigration population. Same thing with the parts of the United States, and people will argue that that's part of the issue as well, is that people come from different countries with different driver's licensing requirements, and they are unable to adapt to the road rules and conditions in North America. That's another factor that you can throw into the mix of why traffic crashes are so high on North American and, the United States roadways. Paul, my friend, last Friday, this driver never stopped completely at a red light and almost struck a pedestrian while on a bus. Yes, unfortunately, that happens, that people don't stop completely at stop sign intersections, traffic lights, red stop lines, those types of things. So it does happen. 3, hey Rick, I had my road test on Friday. A bit nervous, but excited. That is awesome, my friend. You're going to do great. Remember to breathe. That will cause your body to relax. So in through the nose, out through the mouth. Just remember to breathe and get yourself calmed down for your test. You're going to do absolutely awesome. Good luck. Elevator fan. Okay, we talked about that. There was a driver in the left lane who was trying to get over to the right lane after passing me, and the other driver behind them was impatient. Yes, social driving. Me first. I'm a good driver. It's other people that have to change. Marion, I've noticed lately that people love to tailgate. It's annoying. Marion, yes, they do. I don't know why people feel that they need to be right up on your bumper, but it is that optimism bias. That I have a new vehicle. I have power brakes, power steering. I have emergency braking systems in my vehicle. Therefore, I'm okay. I can speed, I can tailgate, follow too close, and we're going to be just fine in a crash. But the opposite is true, as we know, for those smart drivers here on the channel. Rear end crashes are the #1 crash in North America. So please, please increase your following distance to 3 to 4 seconds. And that is not 3 to 4 car lengths. That's not what I'm talking about. 3 to 4 seconds. The car in front of you goes past a fixed object, a tree, a building, the edge of an intersection, a traffic sign. And once that vehicle in front goes past, then you start counting. 1 dinosaur, 2 dinosaurs, 3 dinosaurs, and then you should be going past the same fixed object. The reason we measure following distance in time is because it is relative to speed. In other words, the faster you go, the bigger the distance between your vehicle and the vehicle in front. Unfortunately, there are too many old training manuals out there that like to confuse following distance, and they do it in all kinds of other things. Other manners, other ways. But when you're in a moving vehicle, the only way that you can judge following distance or accurately measure following distance is in time. You can't do it any other way. So practice that. Figure out what your 3 to 4 second following distance is and increase space in front of your vehicle. That will exponentially reduce your chances of being involved in a crash in your vehicle. Retired, social driving is a concern for me. Retired, why is it a concern for you, my friend? Elevator fan, Indiana is supposed to get severe thunderstorms tonight. Yes, and Quebec, the province of Quebec in eastern Canada, is supposed to get ice storms. So yes, everybody's getting a bit of weather. 1569, a couple of weeks ago, I was going down the road and someone was going around everyone else like they were in a hurry, and I just went the speed limit and stayed calm. Awesome. That is great, my friend. Paul, next month is my road test anniversary. Would you celebrate with me? Absolutely. Be sure to tune in next week and we can do that for sure. The other issue, going back to what Retired was saying about social driving is a concern for me, the other piece of the puzzle is the increased number of incidents of road rage on the roadways. And that is what I would say is a prime ingredient into social driving. It's under that umbrella of social driving because people are impatient, they get upset. Driving is emotional, and people take out their anger and frustration on other people. As I've talked about before, that your motor vehicle, your car, is a personal space. Let me repeat that. It's like your house. It's a personal space. We personalize the space within our vehicles with our drinking cups, what kind of smelly things that we put inside the car, those little pine trees to make it smell nice, how we clean the inside of our car or lack thereof cleaning in the inside of the car, how we maintain our car, what bumper stickers we put on our cars, what personalized license plates we put on our vehicles and whatnot. It is the second most personal space that we have, and therefore we can become primal in our vehicles when other people are perceived to be in our way or doing something dumb. As the tenets of social driving, we police other drivers. Therefore, you're going too slow. Did you get your license out of a Cracker Jack box? Or are you just born without brains? Those kinds of things that we say to other people when we are policing them on the roadway. And I too am guilty of policing other drivers on the roadway. One of the things that really irks me when I'm driving is other people going too slow. It happens, but it is what it is. It's a personal space. We emote, get upset when we're driving. Retired, I do a lot of highway driving and more drivers are using their phones. Yes, they are retired. That's another piece of the crash puzzle in the United States of America. The number of people who are on their phones. And I will tell you that hands-free, you can use hands-free phones, yes, but you are no less distracted than if you are holding the phone in your hand. And it's interesting, I'm watching TV series from the 1990s right now, and they're just like on their phone like all the time. But they're a police officer. I'm watching Bones, right? He's an FBI agent, and in the course of their duties, police and emergency personnel can use electronic devices, computers, phones, handheld, hands-free, whatnot, while they're driving. So there's a large segment of the population that are legally allowed to use their phones while in the course of their duties and driving, which are police, firefighters, ambulance, paramedics, those types of people are able to use their phones. But as Retired says, there's a lot of people, a very large percentage of the population, on their phones while they're driving, texting, watching movies, browsing social media, making phone calls for business, whatnot. They're no less distracted. Everybody is distracted. In addition to the number of people, as Retired said, who are on their phones and using electronic devices, the number of people with late model vehicles in the last 10 years, 2026, anything from 2016, has a telematic screen in the middle of the car. And the reason that auto manufacturers are putting telematic screens in, touch screens, to operate the temperature controls in the vehicle, defrost, operate the radio, the stereo, your podcasts, Apple iPhone, Apple CarPlay, it's called. What else is on there? GPS. All of that stuff is all touchscreen in the middle, and there's a big, 12 by 12 screen in the middle of the car. That too is distracting to the driver. I've rented cars that have those displays. They are distracting. There's absolutely no doubt about it. Paul, what would you do if you're driving on a slow lane and you have a tailgater flying to you? Do you change lanes to let that driver go? If you're in the right lane, Paul, I know you asked me this question. I didn't get back to you with an answer. But if you're in the right lane, just increase your following distance. If there's another lane, they'll just go around you eventually, because they're tailgating you to communicate with you that you're going too slow. That is one of the ways that we communicate, is by the position and speed of our vehicle on the roadway. And when tailgaters are on your bumper behind you, they're communicating with you and telling you that you're going too slow, and I'm going to tailgate you until you go faster or you get out of my way. So increase following distance in front. That way you can drive your car and drive for the goofy person behind you, because you can be gentle on the accelerator, on the brake, and you can give them ample warning, right? And if you are going to come to a stop, make sure you tap your brake lights tap your brake pedal to activate the brake lights behind your vehicle to indicate to the person behind you that you're going to turn. Now, you're going to turn or you're going to slow down or whatnot. As well, if you are turning right or you're turning left, be sure that you give the tailgating vehicle behind you lots of notice, because oftentimes you'll go around, and as you're going around on the turn, your vehicle is slowing down, and sometimes they may not get that, and they're too close, and you slow down even more, and then they run into the back end of you. So that's one of the defensive strategies that you can put in place when you're slowing down in preparation to turn and people are tailgating you. Elevator fan, if you police other drivers during your driver's test, you will fail. Elevator fan, no, not necessarily you will fail. You can make a comment about what other people are doing on the roadway, but I wouldn't make a lot of comments about what other people are doing on the roadway during your driver's test. Just focus on doing your driver's test, maintaining your speed and your space, and doing what you need to do to take away the driving examiner's right to fail you. Nothing more, nothing less. But, you know, if you're in the car the entire driving test and you're cussing and cursing other drivers on the roadway, yeah, it's probably not a good indicator of you being successful on a driver's test. 1569, William, I've had people tailgate me and I couldn't speed up. William, you shouldn't speed up for other people that are tailgating you. Simply, as I said, increase your following distance in front. If there is a safe place that you can slow down and pull off the side of the road and let them go by, then definitely do that for sure. 7X, it finally snowed in Vancouver today. Also, my appointment was canceled because of that. Yes, I'm glad they canceled your appointment, 7X, because when it snows in Vancouver, just wait a day. The snow will go away and the world will be a great place and you can go back to doing what you need to do, but you don't need to be driving around. So we're talking about why the crash rate is so high in the United States of America, building on what we were talking about last week, which was an overview of crashes. One thing that one aspect of that presentation from last week that I wanted to clarify was that these traffic crashes, for the most part, are not happening on interstates. Let me repeat that. Most of these crashes, the high fatality rates, are not happening on interstates. There are crashes that occur on interstates, but most of the fatal crashes do not occur on interstates. Most of the fatal crashes in the United States of America happen on state roads, rural 2-lane roads, opposing lanes of traffic. That's when you get fatal traffic crashes. 50% of these fatal traffic crashes happen at night. All right, so it's not interstates and it's not city roads that are causing the high fatality rates in the United States of America. Backing up for city roads, I just caught what I said there, but vulnerable road users, the increase in pedestrian traffic deaths is increasing in city roads, but generally on city roads that have a speed limit higher than 30 miles per hour. If you look at the statistics in terms of the United States of America and why they're reducing urban speed limits within the cities to 20 miles an hour, 25 miles an hour, because as you get closer to 20 miles an hour, the chances of a pedestrian surviving a crash increased almost 80%. As you get closer and closer to 40 miles an hour, 60 kilometers an hour, with traffic crashes in the United States, the chances of surviving a crash with a car and you're a pedestrian reduce exponentially. So if the vehicle is doing 40 miles per hour, 60 kilometers an hour, your chances of surviving a crash as a pedestrian are reduced to about 20%. This is why there is a large-scale movement in the United States of America to reduce urban speed limits to 20, 25 miles per hour so that these traffic crashes with pedestrians are not fatal. This is why many years ago, early 2000s, I believe it was, because I was living in Australia at the time that they did this, they created school speed zones and they reduced traffic speed limits in school speed zones to 20 miles an hour, 30 kilometers an hour, as they are here in Canada, which is still 20 miles an hour, because pedestrians have an more than 80% chance of surviving a crash with a car as a pedestrian. As the rate increases, as we've talked about before, because of high speeds, and we'll talk more about this in terms of newer cars and being distracted and those types of things, the energy, the forward energy, the energy in the vehicle as speed increases exponentially. So if you have a car that's doing 20 miles an hour and then you get a car that's doing 60 miles an hour, that's 3 times faster, but the energy in that vehicle is 9 times more because it increases exponentially. So there's 9 times the amount of energy in a vehicle that is doing 60 miles an hour as opposed to a vehicle that's doing 20 miles an hour. This is why crashes are so fatal. 7X, why does the U.S. have a higher crash rate than Canada? First and foremost, less rigorous training for drivers in the United States of America. We also can contribute this to it's not a walking country at all. People don't walk in the United States of America. They drive. They have higher number of miles driven per person, per vehicle in the United States of America. There's a whole host of reasons, 7X. So I would encourage you to go and look at the presentation from last week to kind of have a general overview. like I said, there's no single reason. There's a whole bunch of reasons, and we're talking about all those different kinds of reasons. Today we're talking about social driving. We're talking about the size of vehicles. If you look at the size of vehicles in the last 30 years, if I park my old 1998 Honda CR-V beside a new 2026 Honda CR-V, they're a third bigger. Look at the size of pickup trucks. The straight fronts on pickup trucks has also been contributed to high fatality rates among pedestrians. Larger vehicles, SUVs, pickup trucks, these are the number one types of vehicles that are sold in the United States of America. And yes, they protect vehicle occupants who are inside the vehicle, but they do not protect other people on the roadway. So if you have a large pickup truck and you have a small, say, Fiat, and they get into a crash, unfortunately, the person in the Fiat is going to sustain most of the damage in that crash. Drink driving laws are different in the United States of America. Distracted driving is different in the United States of America. There are many, many more incidents of those types of things in the United States. Marion, what do you think of the newest Honda CR-V? Marion, the Honda CR-V has taken the place of what the Pilot used to be. But, you know, I'm not up enough on Hondas to really know how well they perform in those types of things, but I would be interested to go and take a new Honda CR-V for a drive and see what I think of it in terms of, in comparison to the old buggy. 7X, between Lexus, Mazda, Toyota, Honda, which one is more reliable and easier to maintain? 7X, I would leave that to the reviews on the internet and whatnot. I can't give you an opinion about that. I know that right now the RAV4 is probably the biggest seller, at least here in Canada. I don't know about the United States and other countries in the world, but I know here in Canada, and I know that it is such a big seller, the Toyota RAV4, that at least in Calgary, I don't know if this is true for other places, but in Calgary, they don't even let you take a test drive anymore. You just order your RAV4 and you take it home. You don't get to test drive it. So that's how confident they are in their ability to sell RAV4s. Corey, usually in that scenario, they will change lanes before long unless they are about to turn right. Yes, exactly what Corey said about going back to talking about people that are tailgating you. People that are tailgating you, as I said, by the position of their vehicle and the speed, they are indicating to you that you are driving too slow. So they are not going to stay behind you for very long. They're going to pass you. They're going to try and get around you and those types of things. Retired says, I love my 2020 Mazda CX-5. Very underrated. And on that note of what Retired just said about his CX-5, a friend of mine just bought a CX-50, which is a Mazda as well, and a couple other people are really raving about the Mazdas. So this is something else that may be something to consider, something to look at if you're considering buying a vehicle, is looking at the Mazdas. I know that the CX-50 that she purchased, it's a 2026 Mazda CX-50. The old buggy, the 1998 Honda CR-V that I drive, puts out 125 horsepower in a naturally aspirated engine, 4-cylinder engine. The Mazda CX-50 has a turbocharger on it with all the electronics and modern automotive technology, is putting out 250 horsepower. So a vehicle 28 years later with the same 4-cylinder engine, I don't even think it's a 2-liter, I think it's probably a 1.9, is putting out twice as much horsepower. So think of the crazy acceleration that you're going to get out of that vehicle. So Mazdas could definitely be something to consider to have a look at, and thank you for that, Retired, as well. And make sure, as Retired just did on one of his vehicles, I don't know whether it was the Mazda or one of the other ones, he put Michelin tires on them. I had to buy new tires for the buggy today. Unfortunately, Michelin doesn't make the size of tire that I need for the buggy anymore. So I went with Cal Tires Nokian Ones is the brand of tire that I went with. I looked at all the reviews. They got good reviews, and so far, I haven't driven out on the highway yet, but so far I like them. I'm very impressed. Much better than the tires I had on previously. Not quite as good as the Michelins, but really good. And I was definitely impressed with Cal Tires service. Great service. It took them less than 60 minutes to put the tires on and do a wheel alignment. And if you are anybody, all the smart drivers, if you are putting new tires on your vehicle, I do recommend, highly recommend, counsel you to get a wheel alignment done on your vehicle at the same time that you get your new tires put on your vehicle. I know it's $130, $150, $160 to do a wheel alignment on it, but why would you spend $900 to $1,000 on new tires and not make sure that your vehicle is lined up, right? The camber, the toe, the one other one. Caster, that's the other one that they look at when you're doing when you're fitting your vehicle with new tires, because if you do the alignment, then you're going to ensure the longevity of your tires. I know that the Nokian ones are guaranteed for 130,000 kilometers, which is what, 95,000 miles. That's a good warranty on a set of tires. So those tires will last me 5 or 6 years. So it's a little bit of expense right away, but you're going to get good value for your money. So definitely do that. Retired, when you have a very busy, good memory, I reach 100,000 miles and still have my original brakes. I do lots of highway driving. 100,000 miles with original brakes. That is impressive, retired. Really impressive on a set of brakes. Just to give smart drivers some comparison, most vehicles are going to need a brake job at about 60,000 miles. That's generally average for most people on a set of brakes on a vehicle, especially on an automatic vehicle. A little bit more on a manual transmission, or, you know, this goes back to what I talk about and I preach and I say to you again and again and again, 3 to 4 second following distance. If you have that 3 to 4 second following distance, when you're driving, you're going to reduce maintenance costs on your vehicle, i.e. brakes, because you're not on and off the brakes all the time. And I say to people, if you're on and off the brakes all the time, you're following too close to vehicles in front, okay? So have that 3 to 4 second following distance, and then you're not going to be braking so much better. Gabi, Nokian is much better tire than Michelin. Good choice. It's yet to be seen, Gabi. I'm not going to disagree with you. I had a set of Michelins on the buggy before the previous set, and they were just absolutely the best for me. Now, I don't know. We'll see what happens with the Nokians. So far, like I said, I really like them, and I'll let you know how they go for me. Excellent. Hall Phase. Yes, I do remember you, my friend. How are you? Sorry, I saw the comment there. Thank you for posting that again. That is awesome. Marion, I'm not even at 60,000 yet, and they have replaced the front brakes. Marion, I'm not going to say you're a bad driver, Marion, but yeah, you were talking about that 60,000 kilometers. Yeah, I'm going to say it's 80,000 kilometers for most brakes, but you're also, Marion, you're doing mostly city driving in Vancouver. That's going to wear out your front brakes a lot faster. So that's how you get off that. Retired, it depends on the type of driving that you're doing. Retired is doing mostly highway driving, which is going to give him an advantage in terms of brake wear and those types of things. You driving in the city, it's going to wear out the brakes a lot more. It's just harder on a vehicle overall. This is why they give you the 2 fuel mileage rate. When you look at a new vehicle and they have the sticker on the window giving you all the features of the vehicle and accessories that are available, they'll give you 2 fuel mileages. They'll give you a highway fuel mileage and they give you a city fuel mileage, and sometimes they'll give you a combined fuel mileage at all. It's the same thing. It's not just fuel mileage that is reduced in the city, but it's also wear and tear in your vehicle increases because you're stopping and starting and stopping and starting all the time in the city. So if you're doing that, so there you go. Marion said, mind you, my husband did have a heavy foot, so it could be that too. Marion, it was definitely that. Okay, if he has a heavy foot, then you're on the brakes all the time, right? Instead of hanging back, having that following distance, creeping up to where you want to stop and slowing down. It's the same thing with the buggy. The brakes last forever on it because I keep that following distance and I anticipate traffic, and I just use the throttle to slow down and speed up. You know, I'm not saying I don't use the brakes, but I use them probably less than most people. And an example of that is years ago when I was in Australia, I took the driver training course, and they took us out. The instructor took us out to this kind of curvy, windy 2-lane road that went past the park down by the river. And he got us to do that very exercise where we would drive on this road. And now it was a manual transmission. You could just leave it in second gear, right? But one of the other drivers, he counted how many times they made a brake application. And the other driver made a brake application like 18 times. Well, I'd been driving truck at this point, and so I was pretty good with the vehicle. And I went down, I only touched the brakes twice, as opposed to 18 times. So it depends on the driver, depends how attentive you are to your driving and your style of driving. And as you said, if your husband had a heavy foot, that's going to wear out the brakes. 7X, how long can your 1990 Honda CB last? And also, how much more kilometers can it go before it stops working? Well, 7X, we're past the point of no return now with the old Honda. I've replaced almost every part on it that you could probably imagine that I did replace on it. And I put another motor in it at 400,000 kilometers. So we're going for $1 million. We're going for $1 million on the old Honda. Well, like I said, we're just past the point of no return. So there you go. Gabe, I agree. Regards to the folks at Cal Tire also. So true that driving environment impacts brake life. I got 235,000 on my buggy brakes. Also 98 CRV with M5 is an excellent chariot. Awesome. That's great, my friend, that you're doing well. Where did you find a vintage CRV, first gen CRV that's only got 235,000? Is that 235,000 miles or 235,000 kilometers? Because if it's kilometers, that's a good vehicle. Excellent. All right, so we'll get over to the presentation here. 10 or 12 minutes going through that. As I said, I am tying this into what we were talking about last week with the number of traffic crashes in the United States of America. And if you compare it to every other high-income country in the world, the number of traffic crashes in the United States of America is consistently higher than it is in other high-income countries in the world. Canada, all the continental Europe countries, Germany, Spain, France. And why is that? And as I said, you can't point at any single factor and say this is why. Okay, it's a combination of factors, and we've talked about those. I talked about those last week, and as I said, I'll put a card up in the corner. Have a look at that video as well to get kind of a general overview of the traffic safety issue in the United States of America. Today we're talking about social driving. We're talking about driver behavior. We're talking about attitudes towards driving and the personalized space of being in your own vehicle. And the fundamental tenet of social driving is that I am a good driver. It's everyone else that needs to change. And, I'm not leveling an accusation at other people because I've been driving since I was 12 years old. I worked on a farm. I drove old cars, tractors, those types of things. I drove trucks. I drove buses. And, now I hate to say it, but I'm in my late 50s. And so I have been driving for more than 40 years. I, too, am guilty of I am a good driver. It's everybody else on the roadway that changes. But I'm also modest enough to admit that I make mistakes. We all make mistakes when we're driving. But what habits have we created? What driving styles have we created that mitigate that risk? As I talk about 2 to 3 second following distance, stopping back in traffic 1 vehicle length, signaling every time you change directions of the vehicle, shoulder checking, always be scanning, mapping intersections, tracking road users so that you can interpret traffic patterns and predict the actions of individual road users. If you can put those driving habits and skills and techniques in place, they're going to mitigate risk and they're going to protect you when you make mistakes, when you get tired, when you're driving distracted. This is what you need to do to reduce your chances of being involved in a crash. And this is what I talked about at the end of the video last week, is what you can do to reduce your chances of being involved in a crash and improve your driving and significantly reduce your risk of being involved in a crash. So those are the things that you can do. Those are the driving habits and techniques that you can put in place and develop and create and do them every time so that you have those habits that are going to protect you. If you're new to Smart Drive Tests, my name is Rick August. I was a truck driver in the 1990s. I hauled freight between Ontario, Canada, and the United States. Most of my driving truck was in the United States because I drove out of Ontario. And for those of you who know southwestern Ontario, it's in any direction. You go to Buffalo, Niagara Falls, you go to Detroit, it's a 2-3 hour drive and you're into the United States of America. So when I did a trip into the United States of America, 85% of my driving was on interstates and in the US. And at one point, while I was hauling furniture for Steelcase, I drove into New York City, Long Island, Brooklyn, Bronx, Manhattan with a tractor trailer for a period of 6 months until the boss got upset with me and I said something to him that probably wasn't conducive to me continuing to do that. And I didn't drive into New York City after that. Basically what happened was it took me 2 hours to drive from Long Island to Scottsdale, New Jersey. And the boss questioned me why it took me so long to drive. I think it was 40 miles into New Jersey. And I basically said to him, I said, it's called the Long Island parking lot for a reason. I said, we're not in southwestern Ontario. We're in New York City. And, then I was pulled off New York after that. While I was going to university in Australia, I drove buses for Greyhound and one of the regional bus lines there. I became a licensed commercial driving instructor in 1997. Most of my driving education, teaching new drivers was with trucks and buses, semi-trucks, air brakes, logbooks, those types of things. I have done new drivers as well, and was an interesting exercise after all the years of teaching upgrading drivers, because then you had to really dig in deep and, teach them things like two-way stop signs, which, you expect most drivers to know, but some don't. They come up, they stop, and then they drive through the intersection thinking that I stopped. What's the big deal at a two-way stop sign intersection? As we know, you got to usually stop twice. You stop and then you creep forward, check, give way to traffic, and then you proceed. 2006, I graduated from the University of Melbourne in Australia with my doctorate in legal history. No, I don't have a PhD in driving. My PhD is in legal history, the study of policing, courts, and prisons. My expertise is in policing as it relates to traffic. Yeah, I'm that weird guy that, talks about traffic. I started the Smart Drive Test YouTube channel, the online business, in 2015. It has been wildly more successful than I could have ever imagined. And we are forging forward, helping new drivers get their license. Videos to have a look at: 5 defensive driving skills, habits and skills, and defensive driving for brand new drivers who just got their license. What skills and abilities do you need to put in place? And where are you most likely to get into trouble? For brand new drivers, you're probably going to get into trouble making left-hand turns. So definitely look at those videos to create habits and skills and techniques that are going to reduce your chances of being involved in a crash. Social driving is the one thing that unites us as a human race, regardless of creed, politics, religion, beliefs. Almost everybody who drives a car would say, I am a good driver. And it was interesting talking to my friend Bill Walker, who I did some videos with 10 years ago. He was my poster student from truck driving school, got his license on Thursday. His Class 1 CDL license on Thursday. On the next Tuesday, he was working in the oil fields driving trucks that weighed 140,000 pounds, which is kind of crazy to think that somebody that had almost zero experience was driving that kind of truck. But I had a conversation with him a few months back, and he was talking about how driving happens in Mexico, because he's retired in New Mexico now with his wife, and very, very different driving culture and attitudes towards driving in Mexico in terms of where traffic signs are, for example, where stop signs are. They're not even at the intersection as you would think of in North America, that they're there at the corner. He said they could pretty much be anywhere at the intersection. So you really have to look around in terms of where traffic signs are. But most people, almost everybody who drives would agree with the statement, I am a good driver. Drivers who participate in the arena of social driving, which I would argue is probably about 93-94% of drivers on our roadways, they follow too close, they stop too close in traffic, and they travel too close to vulnerable road users. And this is definitely one of the mistakes that brand new drivers make, is they get way too close to kids on bicycles, pedestrians, those types of things, and you really have to impress upon them that it is dangerous to be closer than 3 meters. It is dangerous to be closer than 1 meter, 3 feet from vulnerable road users on the roadway. And we just don't have the number of pedestrians here in North America that they do in Europe and other places. And in addition to that, and I've talked about this previously, lane splitting with scooters, motorcycles. Lane splitting is allowed in Europe. It's allowed in California, but it's not allowed in other places in the world. And every time you bring up lane splitting for any other state in the US outside of California or here in Canada, somebody who generally doesn't have a great deal of information about traffic will post some person on a big fully dressed Harley Davidson trying to lane split, and they're bouncing off the cars because it's just the motorcycle is too big. That's not the way that motorcycles are in Europe. Most of the time, the biggest motorcycle you're going to get in Europe is probably a racing bike. But most of them are Vespas and scooters and those types of things. And lane splitting, as far as I'm concerned, makes them more visible and puts them into the consciousness of drivers. And I think that we should have it here as well in North America and whatnot. But again, it comes back to common sense. And as we know, common sense, unfortunately, isn't so common. So if you allowed lane splitting in North America, you will get those people on big Harley Davidsons, Honda Goldwings and interstates and those big touring bikes trying to lane split. And it's absolutely ridiculous to think that you can do that. Reactionary and retaliatory. Most people who are within the realm of social driving are reactionary. They're retaliatory. Somebody does something goofy, they cut them off, they merge in front of them, they signal to move over, and they're like, and they're raising their fists and they're cussing them out, and then they will tailgate them to get back at them. And in many instances, the person in front of them didn't even know that they cut them off. They didn't know that they made a mistake. My friend Klaus, how are you? Nice to see you, my friend. I'll talk to you after the presentation, or just let me get through this, and then we'll come back to that. All right, get there-itis. This has been a problem in transportation for a very long time, and it is the reason that the Titanic sank, one of the most famous shipwrecks in history. Sank on the 14th of April, 1912. Mayday, Mayday, if you watch that television series of plane crashes and running red lights, speeding, aggressive driving, what is get there-itis? We need to get from point A to point B as quickly as humanly possible. And it's been interesting, and I know that Ryan Trans doesn't need any help from me. He's a YouTuber. He has 22 million followers. We've been watching the 50 States in 50 Days series, and, it's hilarious because they're in the western states, Wisconsin, Iowa, the Dakotas, and Montana, and they're driving. They're like, oh, we got a gauntlet today. We got to drive 8 hours. And for somebody like me who used to drive truck over the road and traveled with my kids, where I'm the only driver. We drove from Sydney Airport after getting off of an international flight and drove to Wangaratta. You can say that, Wangaratta. It was like 8.5 hours, and they're like, oh my God, it's 8.5 hours. We got to drive so far. And there's like 2 of them driving. It's like, no, you guys are amateurs. But get there-itis, you got to get from point A to point B as quickly as humanly possible. And there's all kinds of memes on social media where, Google says that the time is going to be 4 hours and 38 minutes. And it's like dad showing up in 4 hours and 15 minutes and beating Google, right? And they think that they're a Formula One driver. This is why. And it's going back to the sinking of the Titanic. The Titanic sank because ship captains during this period of time were under immense pressure to make the crossing from England to North America, the United States, and New York City in record time. And this is what happened to the Titanic, is that it was under enormous pressure as the unsinkable ship to make the crossing in record time, and the captain did not slow down when going through the ice fields, the glacier ice fields in the North Atlantic. Driving nose to tail, the way that we communicate, there is some theory about this in terms of poor communication between vehicles, but experienced drivers will look at some of the details and minutiae about driving and be able to understand traffic patterns, read and interpret and understand and predict the actions of individual road users. So when traffic goes slower, vehicles are even closer. So this is another indicator when traffic is slowing down, the spaces between the vehicles get smaller. It's not just the brake lights. So you can be looking at the traffic overall and figuring out what's going to happen. And because you're maintaining your 2 to 3 second following distance, instead of reacting and hoping that you can react in time, you're going to respond to what's going on in the driving environment. Too close in queues, getting rear-ended, managing space in front, misperceptions. People think, and people have come back, smart drivers over the years have said to me, if I maintain space in front, people are going to cut in. Every now and again, people are going to cut in, but for the most part, people are not going to cut in. They're not going to take that space. And I have been driving like this for years, and I've driven all over the world. I've driven in Europe, in Spain, I've driven in Australia, I've driven in the United States of America, here in Canada. The smarter defensive driving model works, keeping that 2 to 3 second following distance in front. Yes, you have to push. Sometimes you have to go on red lights, but it's like driving in snowstorms. How often in your life do you drive in snowstorms? How often in life is traffic so congested where you live that you have to turn left on a red light? How often in life is traffic so congested that you can't keep space in front of your vehicle? Very seldom. I can't even remember the last time I drove in a snowstorm. Yes, I can remember the last time I drove in a snowstorm. The last time I drove in a snowstorm was probably 6 or 7 years ago in the mountains on the Coquihalla. That was the last time I drove in a snowstorm. Okay, drivers fail to communicate. Unpredictable actions are erratic and without warning. People don't signal. And you want to talk about something controversial, just ask on my channel, my YouTube channel, on the community tab, when do you have to signal when driving? And I will say to people that you have to signal every time you change directions of the vehicle, going forward and in reverse. And I will tell you right now that if you don't do this on a driver's test, you will be assigned demerits. You have to signal in the direction that you're moving the vehicle, whether you're going forward or whether you're going backwards. And if you put that question up on the community tab, people will come back to you, drivers will come back to you and say, there are all kinds of places that you don't have to signal. I disagree. Just teach people that every time you change directions of the vehicle, you signal, and you create that habit, you're going to significantly reduce your chances of being involved in a crash on the roadway. So, unpredictable actions. When you're being unpredictable on the roadway, you're significantly increasing your chances of being involved in a crash. Okay, emotional drivers. If I say one thing about driving is emotional. People get upset. And when they're upset, they are not thinking logically. Okay, they're not putting in place the skills, techniques, and habits that are going to keep them safe. Drivers police and criticize other drivers, and they communicate with other drivers by crowding them. In other words, they're following too close, they're honking, they're giving them the finger, and they're displaying signs of road rage. This is all part and parcel of social driving, and drivers being emotional, drivers being reactionary and retaliatory. They're going to get back at you for something that they think you did. A slight in their world. Okay? Reasons for crashes. Number one, following too close. And we'll talk more about this next week, because every traffic safety organization says that it is speed that causes crashes. And maybe you can help me with this as a smart driver, it's not speed. Speeding contributes to the severity of the crash and definitely contributes to the number of fatalities, but it is not the cause of the crash. And I'm still trying to kind of figure this out, and we'll talk a little bit more about this after the presentation, but I'm trying to figure out how it is that speed, it's the very reason that we drive. We drive because we get somewhere faster and it's convenient, but it's also the convenience of driving, but it's also the downfall of driving, because the faster you go, and if you do get into a crash, the more likely the crash is to be fatal. So it's somewhat of a conundrum, and it's something that's eluding me in terms of what is speed really in terms of driving. And too many people say, oh, speeding is the cause of crashes. Speeding's not the cause of crashes. There's something else going on there. Speed is just the byproduct. So we can talk about that. Failing to give way, as I said, oftentimes when there's a hazard or dangerous situation, you just take your foot off the accelerator for a little bit, let the person go and have their crash somewhere else. Mismanagement of speed and space. People are texting, people are drunk, they're inebriated, they've been smoking marijuana, they're tired, they're fatigued, they're driving at night. As we know, half of fatal crashes occur at night on two-lane roads. Single vehicle crashes, they're not two vehicles running into each other. Single vehicle crashes, the person drives off the road, rolls the vehicle, and you have a fatal crash as a result of that happening. So there's many criteria and conditions that happen that cause the crash. But if people are driving too fast, it increases the severity of the crash, because as we know, the energy in the vehicle increases exponentially. Good luck on your driver's test, and remember, pick the best answer, not necessarily the right answer. Elevator fan, if someone is tailgating you and you brake check the tailgater, you will be at fault for the crash if you were involved in a crash. Elevator fan, not necessarily. They need to prove that in a court of law. It can be difficult to prove. However, no, as what elevator fan just said, if you brake check somebody that is tailgating you and the person behind you has a dash cam and they produce the footage that you did in fact brake check them, then yes, you will most likely be sued, because in the United States of America, they do take legal action for traffic crashes. Epic, my friend, in North America isn't the norm. After the driving test, drive with the flow of traffic. Another thing of social driving. What do you think of this purposely ignoring Painted Island's post-road test? It's another signpost of social driving, my friend Epic. And flow of traffic, it's one of the gray areas of driving. I always keep up with traffic flow when I'm driving, because it makes me more predictable on the roadway, and I'm not going too slow or too fast within that social activity when I'm driving on the roadways. But again, I don't have all the answers. I know how to be predictable on the roadway and reduce my chances of being involved in a crash. All right. So keeping up with traffic flow, I do encourage drivers to stay with traffic flow after they get their driver's license. You can't do it when you go for a driver's license, because you have to drive the posted speed limit. Unfortunately, if any smart driver has driven the posted speed limit, you're finding that people are passing you all the time, and there's a big line of vehicles behind you because you're the slowest vehicle on the roadway. Marion, if you remember correctly, Rick, I have only been driving for 2 years since my husband passed. I took over his car. Yes, I do remember that, Marion. 2 years. It seems longer. Why does it seem longer? Klaus, my friend, how are you doing? I'm fine. Good to see you in live show again. It's 12:41 a.m. here. Awesome, my friend. 1569, I watch your videos almost every day to keep my mind fresh on safe driving. That is awesome, my friend. Congratulations, and thank you for being part of the Smart Driver community and participating. Brilliant. 7X, what are the pros and cons of being a transit bus driver in Vancouver and Metro Vancouver area, and how long does it take for a person to get approved after they applied? Transit bus drivers. There is a live stream here on the channel about being a transit bus driver, 7X. Corey will put that video up for you. Definitely have a look at that video on being a transit bus driver. There's a lot there. It's a big question in terms of being a transit bus driver. First of all, sometimes the transit authority will train you. I'm almost convinced, and if I remember correctly, I would need to do some research into this. Rocky Mountain Bus Company is outsourced to do the transit bus driving within Metro Vancouver. I know that Metro Vancouver and Toronto both outsource some of their transit bus drivers, and there's a reason they do that. They do that so that you're not in the union, okay? Saying that, it is a good job. When you start, I'll just give you a quick kind of 5-minute overview on terms of driving a transit bus. So you have to get a license. You have to get your air brake ticket to drive for a transit bus authority. When you first start driving transit buses, it's based on seniority. If it is a union environment and you're not working for a third-party company, you're working for the transit authority itself. Unionized, it's based on seniority, so there's going to be a very long period of time in most transit companies, 10 years, 15 years, where you're going to be driving the undesirable runs. You're going to be driving at night. You're going to be driving afternoon shifts. You're going to be doing trippers. Trippers are when you come in the morning and then you go home for a few hours and you come back in the afternoon, a lot like a school bus driver. You're working on weekends and you will not have a consistent run. Now, saying that, there are some benefits. Of course, it's recession-proof work. You're paid a certain amount of money. You only work 40 hours a week. So there's pros and cons to it, but definitely, Corey's put up that video there. Thank you for that, Corey. Definitely have a look at that video in terms of becoming a transit bus driver. But as I said, pros and cons, definitely have a look at that. Thank you for reposting that. Gabe, 100% agree. Respacing versus idiotic rhetoric about speed, absolutely nonsense. See Germany if speed is so evil. Yes, absolutely. In terms of Germany, I refer to the Autobahn again and again in terms of speed. Speed is the very reason that we drive cars, so that we can get to our destination as quickly as possible. There's a certain convenience that goes along with driving cars, but at one and the same time, it's not speed that causes the car crash. Okay? It contributes to the severity of the crash. It's not speed. And as we talked about last week, if you talk about that in terms of, why traffic crashes are so high in the United States, there's many, many, many contributing factors. And one of the biggest myths in terms of traffic safety, and this goes back to some of the one of the things that safety pundits are saying about narrow roads reduce the number of crashes, and this is true. and as I talked about, Europe is a place that did not grow up with the motor car. They already had a well-established road network in place before the motor car came along. So they have smaller cars and narrower roads with a great deal more parking and crowding within their cities. And people drive slower because it's narrower spaces. It's not like wide open spaces in the United States, because the United States grew up with the motor car. Go to Los Angeles. You'll see a city that grew up with the motor car and built its roads accordingly with that need. Does this contribute to a higher number of traffic crashes? I don't know. Maybe it does. Maybe it doesn't. Jackson, since I don't have a driver's test anymore, I finally have since not looking miles per hour, I use the throttle control, just 4 fundamental parts of driving. Awesome, my friend. Excellent. Can you do a activity bus instead of a school bus for special activities, just activity buses? Jackson, yes, you can. There are the buses, the small buses for people with disabilities and those types of things, organizations, church organizations, special events, those types of things. So you can get one of those as well. And yes, most places you need a bus license less than 25 passengers to drive one of those vehicles, and you do have to do a pre-trip inspection. Here where I live, it's called a Class 4 in Ontario, which has the alphabet licenses. Class G, no, it's not. G is regular license. E, might be E, F and E. F and E. There you go. F and E license. And it's a mini pre-trip inspection. It has to take 20 minutes for the pre-trip inspection, but you do have to upgrade your license to drive those smaller buses. Epic. Another thing in North America, since states and municipalities set their own traffic rules, sadly, in the case of New York City, New Jersey, drivers tend to turn right on red at a complete disregard of the rules. Yes, they do, because it's that fundamental tension between traffic safety rules and traffic flow. How much volume of traffic can we move through a section of roadway per hour and still keep everybody happy when all of that is happening? Klaus, the speed of the car isn't the problem. It's the stop to zero and the physics in the crash that will get the driver. What I discovered over the years, an overlap crash is often deadly. Yes, it is. And it's exactly what Klaus just said in terms of, falling off a tall building. It's not the height that kills you. It's that sudden stop at the bottom. It's the same thing with a car crash. It's the sudden deceleration that causes injuries and death in a car crash. It's the same thing as heights. It's not the height that's going to hurt you. It's the sudden stop at the bottom. It's not the fall that's going to hurt you. It's the sudden stop at the bottom. That's what gets you. So, smart drivers, I implore you, help me to figure out and how to articulate speed is not the cause of car crashes. It contributes to the severity and the number of fatalities that we experience on our roadways, especially in North America, but it is not the cause of car crashes. So if you can help me with one thing, help me to articulate what speed is. That would be tremendously, tremendously appreciated. Paul, can't forget drivers have to be patient when lights are malfunctioning, especially turning left. Yes, indeed, my friend. Thank you so much for the live stream. Social driving. Put your driving habits in place. 3 to 4 second following distance, stopping back in traffic, 1 vehicle length, signal and shoulder checking every time you change direction of the vehicle, mapping intersections, tracking road users, and interpreting traffic patterns and predicting the actions of individual road users. All of that will reduce your chances of being involved in a crash. And remember, pick the right answer. Pick the best answer. I even messed up my own saying, my own tagline. And remember, pick the best answer, not necessarily the right answer. Have a great night. Bye now.